It's time for the main event. Here comes the breakdown. Act 1, the setup.
Our story begins with an ominous voiceover delivering the open lines of the actual HP Lovecraft short story, while images of the deep, dark Arkham woods flash across the screen. The voice is that of Ward Phillips, who explains that he was sent here to survey the water and has been warned of evil in the forest. Next we see Lavinia, who is your typical high school witch girl doing a ceremony by the water's edge. She's dressed in your standard LARPer witch cosplay, surrounded by crystals and baby doll legs shaped into swastikas. Just an average girl making her way in this crazy world.
It was a baby doll swastika. That was the first thing I noticed when it came in.
Me too. Which I thought was a little weird for her being like Wiccan or whatever.
I mean, I guess the swastika is, it has a lot of different meanings. I don't know what the swastika's meaning is, and apparently it's Alexandrian
I don't know what that is.
I forgot to brush up on my witchcraft. Sorry, guys. Ward, the only rational human in this whole movie, stumbles upon this weirdo and her horse by the water. Sabrina, the teenage witch, is burning hair in a ritual that is supposed to remove any trace of cancer from her mom. All right, so here's a quick fact. Ward is wearing a Miskatonic University shirt, which is a fictional university in the fictional town of Arkham, both created by HP Lovecraft. So it was a nice little nod to the short story.
Can I ask a question that I didn't have time to research, but I'm wondering if you guys did? Did Batman take Arkham from HP Lovecraft? Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I figured, but I wasn't positive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in fact, in the story, this has nothing to do with Batman, but Miskatonic, like the people that come study the meteorite are from Miskatonic University.
Yeah.
But yeah, Arkham was totally created by Lovecraft, and then I can't remember who created Batman, but they Bob Kane, and they ripped it off to make that creepy.
Right. They wanted that dark, mysterious, kind of creepy alien world that Batman became known to be.
And Arkham is all, it's in Massachusetts. I didn't really get a sense of like how far he said that Arkham was from Boston.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm sure somebody's figured it out. There are HP Lovecraft scholars, just like there are Tolkien scholars and stuff. So,
yeah, I want to say in the short story he had mentioned it was like hours away from Boston.
Okay.
So she spots Ward, who I'm sure has more than a few questions, and freaks out. She explains that he's trespassing while gathering up her baby doll swastikas and her mom's hair before hopping on her horse. She instantly hates this dude until he drops some cursory knowledge about Wiccan and Alexandrian witchcraft, which makes her dewy-eyed for this trespassing stranger. She takes a long look at him before riding off on her horse to return home, where she can make some more fucked up witch shit.
There's like a recurring theme where this Ward is just like a random expert in things. He knows about witches. He knows about meteorites. He knows about radiation burns. He's just it was like, is he just a scientist of everything? Like, he's a hydrologist, but he knows all this other random shit. It's just funny. He's like,
and
insert for scientific knowledge.
Toxicologist.
Yeah.
The whole opening scene was just so bizarre. It gave me the wrong impression of what the movie was going to be. So I was very happy to kind of see that they kind of round out the characters a little more as we go forward, because I was a little worried that it was going to be pretty stereotypical.
Yeah, Lovecraft has had a real fascination with the occult and stuff. So it seems like he just pops that in no matter what. And you could argue that, like, every time that she's practicing witchcraft, something terrible happens as a result, almost immediately afterwards. So
it's going to be one of my Coppola questions, but the witchcraft is not involved in the story at all. I don't know why they put that in the movie. That's going to be one of my questions.
All right, so over on the Gardner's family farm, we see the goddamn legend himself sipping some coffee on the porch while surveying his beautiful property, which includes a handful of alpacas, lush gardens, the family dog, and much to his disdain, his cosplaying daughter who broke her dad's heart by tattooing a pentagram on her foot.
How old is Lavinia supposed to be? Did you get a sense of that?
I figured
15, 16?
16 or something.
16 or so.
Yeah.
Isn't there like an age where you have to have consent in order to get a tattoo?
I think it's 17.
You just go get a pentagram on your foot.
I figured she did it to herself, which I'm sure Nigel will get into here in a little bit. Because she's crazy, you know? She's just out there doing her own thing. I'm unique, Dad.
Yeah. I got the sense, though, that her parents just kind of supported what she did, though. It wasn't like they, I don't know, it didn't feel like they were completely, like, upset with her being a witch. They just sort of let her do her thing. So maybe they let her get a pentagram tattoo.
Yeah.
But it probably makes more sense that she just did it herself.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's pretty good if she did it for herself.
Yeah. Some nice ritual.
She should have gotten to that instead of witchcraft.
She should be a tattoo artist.
Yeah. Nic Cage, or should I say Nathan Gardner, scolds his non-boot or helmet-wearing daughter going on a ride without telling anybody. Nathan is on the verge of winning his argument with his daughter when he's interrupted by his wife, Teresa, who comes outside to save the day. She asks Lavinia where her brother is, to which she says he's doping it up with Tommy Chong in the woods somewhere, which is no joke. Tommy Chong is actually in this movie, and he's playing Tommy Chong, just straight out of the movies. Benny, her brother, is out hotboxing the barn with Sam, the family dog. Lavinia tells him she met a weird guy down by the river because obviously between the totally normal dude wearing jeans and a t-shirt and this space cadet, he wins out as the weird one. But she confesses she finds him cute, then stumbles upon her other brother, Jack, staring into the well in their yard, which he does almost exclusively the entire movie. FYI, guys.
That kid, just every time you see him, he's staring into that goddamn well. Every time.
He does such a great job of being a creepy-ass kid.
Hey, it's notoriously hard to direct children, so if you got a child actor, just make them stare at
in that goddamn well.
And you can probably do a pretty good job at it. The little brother, or the kid who plays Jack, is played by Julian Hilliard, I think his name is. He's one of the two kids from WandaVision, which just recently aired.
Yeah.
So that was nice to see.
Yeah, I had no idea. The glasses really hid his face. Somebody watched Color Out of Space, saw that weird kid whistling at a well, and was like, he's got chops. Let's put him in WandaVision.
I mean, I was disappointed he didn't stare into wells in WandaVision, so I have to give WandaVision a 4 out of 10.
He's got a lot more to do in WandaVision. I think he acts a little better in WandaVision.
Yeah, he's a lot better.
They developed his character more than that. But, to each his own.
Yeah.
All right, guess what, guys? Turns out that all the family's water comes from this well that Jack's staring at. And not only does that water come from there, but this kid is throwing leaves into it like a D-bag. Now, this turns out to be a huge plot point. The water, not the leaves. The leaves
apparently have no effect.
Yeah, just throw some decomposing leaves in there and drink it. It's all good.
It's
okay.
healthy.
Adds flavor.
After this, we see the family sit down at the dinner table to eat Mom's favorite dinner, which was made by our hero, while his wife manically worked away in the attic as a financial advisor of some sort, pausing every so often to bitch about how upset she is by the lack of internet on the farm they moved to in the middle of nowhere.
I really liked that part. Like, she's stuck up in the corner of the attic, like trying to get any kind of satellite internet signal just so she can actually do her job.
Yeah.
It's very, very realistic to me.
I'm hemorrhaging clients from our shitty internet.
Goddamn HughesNet out here. It's not enough to keep running our livelihood.
I can't run a multi-billion-dollar financial company on Verizon 5G hotspot.
Right,
Nick.
Like, obviously, she's the breadwinner, I would think, because they got this really nice house, and all Nathan does is milk alpacas terribly.
That's the future, which we're about to learn.
I got the sense that the house was, inheritance.
His dad's.
Yeah, but at the same time, like, she's the only one who's bringing in any money to pay for anything.
Right. Yeah. For being a stay-at-home dad, he sure is a shitty cook, which unfortunately I think the family agrees with. So, as they're sitting down to have dinner, the family has a thrilling yet awkward conversation about how dumb Dad is for buying the alpacas, which apparently he plans on eating the following year. Now, I didn't know this, but do people actually eat alpacas?
I had that same question. I was like, what? Who eats alpaca meat?
Yeah. I think it's... You probably can, obviously. It probably tastes fine.
You can eat anything, of course.
But alpacas are, and Lavinia brings it up, their fur. Like that's their you get alpaca wool, and then that's the cash crop from the alpacas. Eating them makes no sense. It'd be much easier to raise pigs or something.
My brother had the thought that he meant it as a joke, but you cannot tell at all because of Nic Cage's like the delivery of that is like, yeah, we're gonna wait till you eat the alpaca meat next year.
Also, we kind of learned like he's kind of a terrible farmer, so it sort of suits the character if he's really planning on eating alpacas for some reason.
Yeah, he's an awful farmer. Here's a quick fact though. So Nathan complains to Benny and Lavinia about the cost of the alpacas. So as of 2019, when the movie premiered, a breeding female alpaca, depending on its quality of the specimen, has a cost between $5,000 and $30,000, and the stud males can go for $10,000 upwards, while the young males and geldings can start anywhere from about $500 and up. So
that's crazy.
Yeah, apparently alpacas are expensive.
Yeah, I mean, you spend $30,000 on something and then you plan on eating it the next year. That's...
Right. So we think like, I mean, they were at least female, right? Because he's milking them. So
I mean, you can milk anything with nipples, Nigel.
Yeah, and he's got. I said that to my wife when she was like, "Can you milk alpacas? Come on, you got nipples. You can milk anything." So they got 4 of them, I think. Is that how many they had?
He has 4 of them, but when we see it later on, when it all spoilers morphs into one creature, there's 6 of them.
Yeah, I was gonna say there were more than 4 when it.
All right, well, I think we only saw 4 on screen at one time.
We only see 4 real ones at any given time.
They're in the credits too. They even have their names in the credits. So I think there were only 4 that they filmed with. That's awesome. So he's got between. He's got between what, $2,000 and $12,000 or $120,000 worth of alpacas
that he plans on eating.
He plans on eating in a year.
I think I have to agree with his dad. He's not the smartest in the bunch.
Also, can you drink the milk too? Like, I mean, I guess they're kind of like sheep goats.
God, I'm blanking on that tribe that lived up in.
The Incas.
The Incas. I mean, that was one of their major.
A little more than a tribe, but huge civilization. But yeah, that was their main. Livestock was alpacas.
Yeah, livestock was alpacas. So
they were their workhorses, their food, their milk, their wool.
Yeah.
So, and they'll live basically anywhere. So they're actually a really good thing, which is probably why they're so expensive.
Yeah.
They're durable.
They're really hardy animals.
So now that we have all this alpaca information stored away, hey, I mean, this podcast doesn't just break down films; it teaches you new things. It taught me some new stuff.
Yeah. So you wanted to know about alpacas.
Hell yeah. So Nick explains that alpacas are the animal of the future, which makes sense now. He then heads to grab some wine, and the whole family proceeds to bash the dish he spent hours slaving away in the kitchen to make for their ungrateful asses.
Yeah. They made some delicious cassoulet.
Did not look like an easy meal to prepare.
No, it seems super complicated.
I looked it up at one point, like what all was involved in that dish, and it's pretty intense. I mean, there's a lot to it.
It's a French dish, so you know it takes a long time and has a lot of preparation to it.
Well, no wonder why his kids didn't like it, because they're uncultured. After dinner, Nic Cage reads the line, "Time for you to do the dishes," in only a way Nic Cage could read, and then explains how their farm is his dad's. Now, apparently Nathan's dad was either Peter Lowell or was related to him, Peter Lowell of Vampire Kiss fame, because they talk exactly the same way. And apparently his father didn't think highly of Nathan because he wanted to become a painter. You'll never be a painter, Nathan. Okay.
Was it Nathan wanted to become a painter, or his dad was a painter and didn't see Nathan becoming a painter?
Nathan wanted to be a painter.
Nathan wanted to be a painter,
and his dad was a farmer or whatever, and told him he was worthless because he wanted to paint.
Yeah.
The age-old story.
Yeah, apparently he's not very good at painting either, because I didn't see any evidence of him being a painter at all in this film.
He gave it up. Remember, he gave it. His dad beat it out of him. Maybe
He gave it up to marry a high
yeah, he got a
functioning
rich,
woman.
rich businesswoman wife.
Yeah.
And got it made.
Which, I mean, there are worse ways to live life.
Yeah, he's got a what's a sugar mama?
Sugar mama?
Yeah.
Got a
Sugar
sugar
mama.
mama.
Which now brings us to the sad part, because his sugar mama's not too sugary on him. Nathan tries to make a move on Mrs. Gardner, but she expresses worry that there's no way he could be interested in her since her breast cancer diagnosis. The two of them haven't made love in 6 months, which is made abundantly clear in the next scene when the two of them completely ignore the house rattling like there's an earthquake, a blinding flash of bright magenta light, a dog barking, alpacas freaking out, and a kid screaming bloody murder before finally realizing something is going on, only to be made even more abundantly clear when a meteorite crashes into their front yard. It takes all that for them to realize something's not right.
I mean, we've all been there. 6 months is a long time.
6 months.
They were doing some very passionate dry humping. Fully clothed.
Fully clothed. They rush out of their room to find their youngest son semi-comatose in the hallway, which they all kind of just ignore and head out to check the meteorite on the front lawn, which smells horrible to Nathan and nobody else. Do you guys smell that? Do you smell that? Jack sits with a 1,000-yard stare, unaware of anything or anyone around him until suddenly becoming conscious again, only to say his head hurts. Nick decides taking him to the hospital isn't worth it because it's an hour away and decides to have a drink instead, because under the current circumstances, it's the only appropriate response. So, being the award-winning mother she is, Mrs. Gardner just puts Jack right back to bed.
Yeah. Well, any kind of head injury or shock or anything like that, you just put him to bed. He'll be fine.
He'll be fine. We'll just get him some well water.
Yeah, it makes everything better.
Also, Nathan can't get the stink of the meteorite out of his nose, so he does the only sensible thing and rubs bourbon into his nostrils, as you do.
I had to rewind that one like 3 times. The first time I watched it, I was like, did he just rub whiskey in his nose or bourbon in his nose?
It's so violent, too. He dunks his fingers in and then just starts fingering his nostrils.
I mean, I guess that would get the smell out of your nose, but Jesus.
Oh, yeah, that's what it is. I didn't realize that's why he was doing it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But he just needed to get that into his bloodstream, so he wanted to put it right into his brain.
Sniff it.
I thought he was going back to his
like
coke
cocaine.
days. Yeah. All right, the next day, the cops and the mayor, for some reason, show up and to inspect the meteorite that Nathan says smells like someone set a dog on fire. And yet, still nobody else claims they can smell anything. So this is like your first sense of, something weird's happening. He's going crazy.
I still don't really get, this isn't a couple of questions, but why would the mayor come there specifically?
Yeah,
I mean, the only reason is for exposition to expose that she wanted to buy the farm so that she could build this reservoir, and he's like one of the lone holdouts in that area, which becomes a major plot point later on, of course.
Yeah.
Which is weird because
the press showed up too, right? It's the mayor and the cops and the press, or do they show up later?
The mayor and the cops come first, and then she calls the press and
that's right.
Yeah.
makes him look like a buffoon on TV.
Yeah.
Which isn't hard.
This to me was a weird plot point because in the short story, the dam or whatever still gets built, and they were able to build around the property because, spoiler alert, the property becomes uninhabitable after the events that take place. So I don't really know why they threw her into it. It just was clunky. And then down the road, there's another scene with her that I just felt was a waste of time. Yeah. But
I watched the deleted scenes, and there's a whole scene of her kind of bribing Ward to not say anything about the water being bad.
I figured there had to be something, because there's this scene where he goes into her office, and then that's it. It just ends and cuts to something else.
Yeah.
So.
That's You're going to hear her talking in the background about how this reservoir is going to be a huge cash cow for this area. That once this goes into place, it'll give water to the whole eastern seaboard, which is huge. because obviously this water is, well, we'll get there, massively tainted, but we'll get there.
It's good. So Ward shows up to offer his expert water table sampler's opinion, but only after looking at Lavinia's legs. This all happens while the cop pokes it with a stick, and the mayor gets all shitty about not being able to buy the gardener's family farm and calls the press. Totally weird scene. Also a little creepy that the Ward and Lavinia have this weird sexual tension.
Yeah. He's a college student and she's a teenager.
Yeah, it just makes no sense. It's uncomfortable. But, Wiccans, what age are they really? All right, so here's a quick fact. Ward Phillips states that most meteorites disintegrate in the atmosphere. This isn't correct. A meteorite, by definition, is a rock from space that impacts the Earth's surface. A rock that burns up in the atmosphere without reaching the surface is a meteor. And a rock randomly drifting through space is a meteoroid.
Yeah.
Do-do-do-do.
Yeah, well, stick to your lane, Ward. He knows about water. He doesn't know about astral bodies and meteors.
Yeah, I guess you could chalk up him getting that wrong just because of him just trying to seem smarter than he actually is.
Yeah, which I wonder if maybe they did throw that in there to show, like, okay, he's kind of trying to show off.
Yeah.
But he doesn't actually know everything.
Yeah, could be.
Another quick fact. The narrator in the original story, who's Ward in the film, is from Boston University. This is alluded to in the movie when Nathan asks, let me guess, Boston? When trying to figure out where the weird stranger who just wandered onto his property came from. Which, when I saw that scene, I flashed back to Grand Isle when they had that exchange about the military.
Yeah.
I was like, what? Why?
Why is he so confrontational with this guy?
Why is he so upset about big city Boston boy?
Yeah, and why would you just randomly, like, what's the point of, like, randomly guessing that somebody's coming from... Oh, Nigel, are you from Alabama? It just made no sense.
It'd be weird, too, because I don't know where this is supposed to take place, if it's supposed to be Rhode Island or if it's supposed to be Massachusetts, but it would be like
assuming
just
Arkham
guessing.
is going to be in Massachusetts,
Yeah,
so it would be weird. Like, he's a college student. Of course, he'd probably be from the university in Boston, which is, I think, the only main one nearby. It'd be like if somebody came by and, in Seattle, I'd be like, well, let me guess, UW? Like, well, yeah, that's the only university around here. Like, what?
Well, I mean, I am decked out in Husky gear. Good guess there.
And the funny thing is, Nathan asked that while he's wearing a Miskatonic University T-shirt still. So.
Yeah, it was just a weird, and it just flashed me back to that movie, and I thought, how funny, man. This movie kind of has pieces from a few of the movies that we watched.
Yeah.
All right, so Nathan, Ward, and Benny speculate as to the meteorite's value, whether it's radioactive and whatnot, before Nathan excuses himself from this absolutely insane occurrence on his farm to milk the alpacas. Because he's still got work to do.
I've got to go.
They aren't going to milk themselves.
If you'll excuse me, I've got to go milk the alpacas.
After a short but sensual milking session, Nathan chugs some alpaca milk and tells Ward the family has a hippie squatter named Ezra who lives on the property, which kind of seems like something a guy with 3 kids and a wife would probably have sorted out before coming back to the farm full time. But different strokes for different folks, right?
It's okay. It's just some random hippie guy living on our property.
Lives here, rent free. He's got a whole setup.
Just smoking tons of pot.
Got cameras everywhere.
Yeah, that's another thing too. The dude
probably booby trapped.
The dude's got like
his son goes and hangs out with him.
Yeah, son goes and smokes pot with him like every day.
It's totally normal for a kid to be hanging out with an 80-year-old old man who lives on the property.
So really, really terrible parents.
Yeah, they're not the best. Benny and Ward then head to this cracked out lunatic shanty in the woods, who is chiefing it up with his cat named G-Spot and drinking brown dirt water. which Ward wants to do some tests on, since the water looks like someone's shitting it while everyone else just chugs it like it's alpaca milk. Betty was like, oh yeah, I'll take that. And just starts chugging it.
Give me some coffee. Some Java.
Give me...
Straight from the mother's tit or whatever.
Yes.
Yeah. The three of them and G-Spot, the cat, are interrupted by a sudden rainstorm, which causes the meteorite to glow. It's struck repeatedly by lightning, much to the Wiccan girl's delight.
Thinking about it, doesn't Benny tell Ward, or when he's talking to his Lavinia, that like their dad was a hippie or something from the older days? Like, I think he mentions it, and maybe that's why he knows Ezra and why he's okay with this old stoner hippie hanging out.
That makes
Maybe
sense.
he was talking about Ezra. I can't remember. I think he mentioned something about his dad. It was just a weird old hippie. And,
Yeah, I think like
grew out
Ezra
of
was
it.
like a family, or like somebody well known in the town, and everybody knows that he's just this crazy hippie. And there's like he's of no harm to anybody other than underage children smoking marijuana. But
In the deleted scene, he talks about how he went off the grid after working for the power plant in Arkham for forever, and he got kind of screwed over by the same mayor who's trying to build this reservoir and stuff. Like got fired with no pension and stuff like that.
Oh,
so
dang.
he's just now that's why he's living off the grid. He doesn't want anybody interfering with his life and stuff.
Yeah.
But it was a really weird scene. It's just a lot of Tommy Chong just being
Yeah.
Tommy Chong, and
he's just ripping bongs.
yeah, it's literally like toking the whole time he's talking about like, I got screwed over, man.
Screwed over, man.
Just headcanon it as it is Chong from Cheech and Chong, who's retired and that's where he lives now.
Once the comedy ran out, I came out here to make an honest living, man.
In the making of, he was like, I could live here, man. I mean, this is totally me. I could live in these woods. I feel like I'm in Canada, but nobody speaks English because it's Portugal.
That's so funny.
Oh, God.
That's
I
awesome.
love Tommy Chong.
Act 2. It's about time we had some conflict, wouldn't you say?
We see Ward back at his tent where all of his electronics start going a little hinky. His radio turns to static, his phone rings, and no one's on the other end. His truck starts on his own and revs the engine maximum overdrive style while he stands directly in front of it for some reason.
You know,
got,
when the car is like randomly revving and all the lights come on, everything comes on, and you're just standing in front of it, getting closer to
Right,
it.
dumbfounded. I got like Tremors vibes from this scene, like for some reason, like the scene when they're at night at the building site in Tremors, and like they try to turn the car on, and after the Tremors grabs the car and yanks it under. I don't know, it's just weird. I kept getting flashes of other movies while watching this movie, like little homages and stuff. I don't think that was intentional, but that was one that just stood out.
I feel like there were some homages in here.
There definitely were.
Richard
I don't think
Stanley's
Tremors was one of them.
yeah, probably not. But Richard Stanley's like a big fan of older horror movies, so he intentionally references a few other ones.
There's a couple.
I forget what they were from the behind the scenes, but he does mention a couple movies that he's.
I was going to name a few at the end once we
okay.
finished that I felt had some influence to it.
Yeah.
But we'll get ahead of ourselves. Anyway, Ward also spots an anomaly in the woods of some sort of interdimensional being that he blames on his flashlight being on the fritz. None of this is enough to make him pack the fuck up and leave, though. Yeah, the anomaly, it looks like a predator, like the little the swirling in the air, but it's like magenta tinted. Like, but
Which, it kind of made me wonder, like, so at one point they kind of explained that this anomaly is just kind of absorbing everything and everything is becoming it.
Yeah.
But was there at some point like an actual creature walking around that interdimensional?
I don't think there was.
No.
I don't think there ever was.
I don't think so. Yeah, I think it's like an energy.
It's very Lovecraftian to just say that it's an entity or a presence or... That's one of the things I really like about the story, and I think they did a pretty good job adapting it in this, is that it's a meteorite. It's not an evil entity. It's just weird shit starts happening because of radiation or an alien presence or something. It's just weird.
Just trying to make the circumstances on this planet the same as the planet that it came from.
Right.
Well, I took away that it was trying to draw enough energy to then expel itself back into space
that
to
could be
get
too.
home.
That makes sense.
Because with the finale of this, and then also in the short story, spoiler alert, it leaves. It leaves, and then presumably nothing happens ever since. But the folklore is around that property, so people tend to stay away from it.
And it did drain everything from the area in the story. They call it the blasted heath. It's all gray and dead. Nothing grows there anymore.
Ash.
Like it sucked the whole life force out of that whole area. And
No
then took
wind, no sun, nothing, no water. It's just all gray.
Which they did a homage to in this in the movie too, which was really cool. The next morning, Nathan and his wife stare at the hole in the ground where the meteorite used to be and question where the hell it went. She's glad that it isn't there anymore, instead of A, being scared someone came onto their land, which is 12 miles from anything, and took it, B, being in awe that it exploded because of lightning striking it 9 times in a row, or C, somehow it left on its own. Any of these 3 things should freak a normal person out.
Yeah.
But they're just sort of in awe of it. And,
Well, I'm glad it's gone.
Yeah. Leaving this giant crater.
Yeah,
Glad that's over.
back to life.
That night, Nathan and his kids are watching the news when the interview Nathan did on the farm the day earlier airs. The news report makes Nathan look like a nutcase who saw a UFO in his yard, which upsets him as he presumably has the revelation that he looks and acts just like Nicolas Cage in person. So that's not like, oh my God, I really act like that? While this is going on, Teresa cooks up some bloody egg, carrot, and fingertip salad. They all made fun of their dad's cassoulet, but their mom can't even make a salad, right?
Yeah.
She's obviously the first to start losing it from the anomaly caused by the meteorite. She chops off the tips of her fingers and doesn't even notice. Then she lifts her bloody hand up and says, "Dinner's ready," which clearly dinner can't be ready. 1 bloody egg is in a bowl, a single chopped carrot, and a couple of fingertips isn't going to feed a family of 5. Nathan takes her to the hospital that's an hour down the road that they refuse to take their son to, where they evidently spend the night because we next see the sunrise on the farm, which now sports a bunch of magenta flowers that sprang up overnight. Then he tries taking care of the alpacas, but is either too stoned to do it correctly, or the alpacas are also being affected by the weird alien colors and poisoned water. Both explanations are equally likely. There is a shot of what is obviously a stuffed alpaca puppet head refusing to drink out of a bucket of water. I don't know if you guys saw that, but it's like a reflection shot looking down of it, and it's like clearly just that, like, they couldn't get an alpaca to not drink, like sort of, but not drink out of the water, so they had to make do with some movie magic. Funny.
What's magical?
Just pictured some PA like holding it.
All right, no,
real,
don't
right?
make it look like we're drowning the alpaca. That's too violent.
Jack stares at the well in the yard and whistles to the man he says is living inside of it. Lavinia is a little freaked out by her schizo brother until she hears something respond back from inside the well with a whistle, which makes her queasy for some reason. She heads back into the house and gets a call on her cell phone. It's Nathan calling home from the hospital, but there's nothing but static and screaming on both ends of the call, which doesn't set off any alarm bells, I guess. I found that it was really creepy and unsettling. It did a really good job, but like, just the screaming distorted through the thing, but neither person is screaming.
I thought maybe
it was really cool.
They talk a lot about the anomaly, like changing time and stuff. I thought maybe it was like a piece of audio from later in the film being played in there, but
that's cool.
I didn't hear anything that was like specific to another scene, but I thought they did a great job with that. I would get the fuck out of there immediately when I started hearing that stuff.
I just liked it because like audio anomalies and creepy audio are just really cool to me in general. Like, I don't know why, but it was a cool little effect. Also because obviously the story was written in 1920s, like none of this shit existed, like TVs didn't exist and stuff. So it was a cool modern take on weird things happening that it interacts with the electronics in a way that is creepy to people like us who interact with these electronics on a daily basis. Jack heads over to the well and stares into it again while he witnesses the birth of a crazy-looking mantis which seems to see the world in 80s music video vision. It's like this pulsating alien egg in the well, and then it births this giant purple mantis that comes up and sees everything in trippy visuals.
Yeah, it really felt like something out of like, like the Sledgehammer video or something like that.
Meanwhile, Lavinia decides to clean up the blood knife and carrots from Mom's souffle she was busy making the night before. She gets very grossed out by the blood on the blade, which seems like a weird thing for a witch to get hung up on. But she sees a sudden flash of magenta light and the sink overflows with blood.
I had questions about that. Like, there's no way that there was enough blood on that knife to cause that much blood to spill out of that thing.
I think it's just a psychosis. Like, she sees it, like they all start seeing there's little glimpses I think throughout the movie of like the weird shit that's happening may not actually be happening, maybe it's happening in their head, And maybe that was part of that, because she's sort of like disoriented by it and nobody really reacts to things like you would expect they would.
Yeah. There's also a time jump there. If you look at the clock, it's hours later. So she sees that flash, and then the water's overflowing, and when she comes to, it's been hours that she's been standing there.
That actually happens a lot now that you think about it. Like, they
there's
go to
a
the
lot
hospital, and then it's nighttime when they're coming back the next day or something, or it's just weird time jumps around, which you don't really think about as you're watching the movie.
Benny has gone off at some point earlier to go take care of the alpacas, and he disappears for like 20 minutes, and then just comes back.
And that barn is like right there. Like, you can see it from their porch. It's not like you had to wander off to the other side of the property to do it. So,
and those alpacas, the 4 that we see, are in the exact same spot, like 3 different times in 3 completely different time periods. So I got the sense that was what they were going for. It was
it's like a time loop, or something's happening.
Got stuck or something.
She then gets another call full of screams and freaky noises, which makes her sick to her stomach again. Ward rudely knocks on the door, interrupting her vomit session, and warns her that the water is contaminated. She heads back in for more puking, and Ward spots Freak Boy in the yard, still staring creepily at the well. He explains that he's playing with his friends and laughs like a nutcase as Ward bolts the F out of there. It's just weird that he comes here just to tell him this and then leaves again. Like, I don't know, maybe do some more, have some more agency in this. I don't know. Also, I thought it was funny that he did a little test strip of the water and it turned purple, which I don't think any pH thing turns purple, but everything turns purple with this stuff.
Yeah.
I just think it's funny that he needed this brown, gross water to be tested to be able to be like, oh, yep, it's contaminated.
Just like I thought.
Yeah. He pops in on Tommy Chong again, who's staring at the floor and listening to some noise rock on his headphones. Ezra says he can hear people under the floor moving around, and he recorded it with a tape recorder. Ward dismisses it as nuts, to which Ezra tells him, "You don't get it, dude. It's not out there. It's in here. It's in the static. It's in the moisture. Up is down, fast is slow. What's here is out there, and what's there is in here now." Which I think are lyrics to a Pink Floyd song. Welcome to the machine.
Fast is slow.
Ward tells him he should probably leave the area and not drink the water. Again, he's the only rational person in the movie. Ward tells Ezra he'll let him know if he sees G-Spot, to which Ezra says, "You might see her, but I don't think you'll recognize her," which I think we can all agree is how most of us feel about finding the G-Spot in general. Class A joke. Grade A joke. Next, it's nighttime while Nathan and Teresa are driving home as Nic Cage belts out some opera.
Nathan.
As they approach the farm, they see a jump scare of a mutant cat with glowing eyes on the road. So it seems the only way to draw out the elusive G-Spot is by hearing Nicolas Cage's incredible vocal skills. I wonder if the studio had to pay any royalties for his singing, a la Vampire's Kiss.
This one was pretty what the hell is he singing? So maybe he learned his lesson.
Yeah, and the cat, the jump scare was just so weird. It was like they're talking, and then his wife's like, "Look out!" And it's just extreme close up of the cat's face, but they're presumably 30 feet away from it in the car or something, and then it's just a cat, a mutant cat thing. But
in the behind the scenes thing, they talked about the cat being larger, like the cat had grown to be bigger, which I didn't get that sense at all.
No, it
looks
wasn't
like
apparent.
the same,
and they didn't
except
have an
it's hairless.
establishing shot of it. They just had a really close shot thing, and then back to the car.
Yeah.
They should have had it jump on the hood or something. I don't know, to make it look like it was that close to them.
Yeah.
Back at the farm, Jack is still staring at the goddamn well, but now he's accompanied by Sam the dog, who snarls and heads off into a magenta fog to protect Jack and is never seen again. I think the dog was one of the wolves from Game of Thrones. It looked like one of the. It did. It looked like one of the. It was played by 3 different dogs. Apparently, I checked the credits, but I didn't look into it any further. But it looked like one of the wolves that one of the kids have. The Stark kids has in Game of Thrones.
You know, I was in Canada 2 years ago, and there's actually a couple of those wolves are up there in this little place. You can actually go visit them.
That's nice.
You can go see. I didn't actually stop in, but I saw that like it was an option. You can just drive in and see those wolves.
They moved out to a farm in Canada.
Yeah.
Then he pops back into the movie for a second to explain that he got lost in the field because 1 second it was light out and next it was dark. None of these freaky ass events, which we've skipped over a bunch because there are so many of them, are making any of the characters think maybe we should leave. That's one of the things I really liked about the movie, is it does capture that general Lovecraft, like something is seriously wrong the entire time you're watching or reading or whatever, but you can't quite place your finger on what exactly it is. It's just something very unsettling and it just shrouds the whole experience, which I thought was really cool. Nathan and Teresa come home to find Jack standing in the road staring off into nothingness in the middle of the night, and when the kids try to explain the freaky shit that's been going on, Nathan dismisses them in a decidedly Nic Cagean delivery. What is this? Well, the cat's away, the mice will play, huh? He just does that like at the drop of a hat. He just delivers a weird line that just cuts into whatever else is going on. It's just like completely out of left field. It's like, what do you mean play? They're just standing, they're just hanging out on the deck. Like, they're not doing anything crazy.
Yeah, felt like an improv.
Yeah. I think he's more upset that the alpacas are not taken care of.
Yeah,
then Nathan, he spots the alpacas outside, launches into full-blown Peter Lowe. He scolds them again and begins the descent into total madness while the kids try to figure out what the hell's going on, like the rest of us. As he was like, because he goes out and he grabs the alpacas and he's leading them back into the barn and he's ranting about stuff. I really wanted them to say, "Am I getting through to you, alpacas?"
That would have been incredible.
Yeah. I mean, Richard Stanley did want him to do Peter Lowe, so
Yeah.
there you go.
Lavinia and Denny finally come to the realization they need to leave the farm, and they start making plans. Nathan, on the other hand, takes a shower that causes a serious case of grayscale to break out on his arms and spots a breast implant in the drain that shoots out tentacles and attacks him. His answer to this? We need to call a plumber or an exterminator or something.
What the hell was that thing supposed to be? Just some sort of blob?
Some slime? Like, I don't know.
I don't know.
Again, I don't know if it's part of the alien life form or if it's he imagined it or if it's some mutated. Maybe it was like mutated shower mold or something.
Yeah. If you notice throughout the movie, like every interaction with water causes them to go a little bit more insane every single time, or transform a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he gets it all over his skin, and then he gets the grayscale, like Game of Thrones skin, but it looks like that with shingles or something all over his arm. Mm-hmm. Which again is out of the book. That's from the story. Nathan freaks out about the smell again and says it's the same smell as the cancer ward his dad was in, and that his wife probably knows the smell better than anyone, which might just be the most horrible thing you could possibly say to someone recovering from cancer.
Yeah, that was pretty fucked up. Like,
but then, it was very, I don't know, like very Shining-esque, very Jack Torrance is just cutting in with some really brutal shit out of nowhere.
Yeah.
But then he says everything will be A-okay, so it's fine. And his wife just forgives him for saying this horrible, ruthless.
I mean, I can't imagine much worse things that you could say to your wife, who is obviously really struggling with the fact that she had cancer and had a mastectomy, or a double mastectomy, it seems like.
Yeah.
And is, very self-conscious about her body and the fact that she had cancer and all that kind of stuff. It's like, oh my God, that's just brutal.
But I do want to note here that I haven't spent any time in a cancer ward, but I don't believe they smell like burning dogs. So I don't really know why he was making that comparison. But apparently that's what the smell is like to him. It's like somebody lit a dog on fire. I guess that's what a cancer ward smells like.
Yeah, it's more of like bleach, sterile
environment. Antiseptic hospital smell that you normally have. The next morning, Nathan's in the yard with the plants that grew again, seemingly overnight, while scratching his discolored arms like an ape. He picks up a basket of huge ripe tomatoes and peaches that have come in a month early while listening to a book on tape about farming or something.
I had a question. I guess it's a Coppola question about this. Of like, so every electronic has been screwed up until suddenly his like book on tape is working and the internet is working for Teresa for a moment. So like, did the anomaly just kind of shift for a moment and then they had electronics and then
maybe it's just
not?
Radio waves that are messed up, although the Wi-Fi would screw up because of that. But like TV and cell phones operate well, no, because the car turned on by itself and did weird stuff. I don't know.
And then Tommy Chong's Memorex tape is playing
tape
later on.
which are good. But maybe it doesn't mess with old magnetic tape, and maybe he was listening to an actual tape. I can't remember if it was a book on tape or if it was like just an audiobook that he was listening to.
It was like an iPod type of thing.
Yeah, I think it was audio.
That is funny though.
Yeah, but in the short story, the things like that story takes place like over a year, right?
Yeah.
Natural. Yeah. It's a longer period of time, and so things happen sporadically until it all
it just gets worse and worse throughout the year, and that's why that's why they don't move away or anything. They're just like, no.
It makes a lot more sense because this one seems like it takes place like over 5 days or so.
Yeah, it's
like,
short. I'd say
things are going crazy really quickly.
But I kind of figured the same thing. It kind of ebbs and flows, but seems to be more active at night.
And the story, it's also more like it gets into the water, into the water table, which the movie talks about, but that would take a longer amount of time before you'd start manifesting weird things happening because it's poisoning the water. It's not just like radiating into the air, I guess, or whatever was happening in this film. Teresa is online somehow, even though all the electronics have been constantly on the fritz and the phones only contain screaming white noise, but is quickly booted offline and blames Nathan, who's taking a bite out of every piece of fruit he picked up and spitting it out into the garbage.
Nate, are you listening to me?
He slams all the fruit into the garbage like Blake Griffin while his wife screams at him like a psycho.
Man, that's a very Nic Cage moment.
Yes, it was.
In fact, I had a note here. Perhaps we need to add a tracker or a counter or something for whenever Nic Cage does weird things with food or drink in the movies. Because it seems like every movie he's done weird stuff involving food or drinks. Like he eats the cockroach and he throws the food on the ground in that. And in Wicker Man, he chugs the meat and slams it down on the bee on the table. Like in this, he's just biting fruit and spitting it out because it tastes like garbage, even though he's pissed off because it grew really well, but it tastes like crap. So he's like, I still suck as a farmer. It just seems like a recurring thing that he just does. There's a weird scene, at least in every movie, where he does some weird shit with food.
That's a good point.
Gets his head thrown into a deep fryer in Deadfall.
Throws a drink in a dude's face.
He's also drinking the beer like a milk out of a milk
milk bottle. like a milk bottle.
Just something I observed. Next, we see Nick in the passing out chair he used in Grand Isle, sipping bourbon. I laughed out loud. Like, oh my god, he's got it's like the same chair. And he's even got the tray of whiskey and stuff sitting next to it. Like he's got all the booze right there. It's like I'm pretty sure it's almost the exact same prop.
They were shot. The Grand Isle and this movie were shot very close to each other. So
he even passes out in it. Like,
he does. He wakes exactly the same way.
We see a news report about the mayor wanting to add a freshwater reservoir to the region while Nathan inspects his now completely disfigured arms, which he rubs bourbon on for some reason. It's the cure-all. Stuff it in your nose, rub it on your rotting arms.
Rub it down your arm.
But, and that's the explanation there that, like, the mayor wants this place to turn into a reservoir, and this is obviously going to fuck that up because the water is tainted.
Act 3. Time to resolve some shit.
Before we know it, it's nighttime, and Jack hears the old familiar whistle from the well. He heads downstairs and finds his dad in his Grand Isle passing out chair, then heads outside to find Benny staring at a now completely magenta flower-covered front yard, which I thought was cool. But still, like we said, like that happens so fast. I mean, there's no way that you could see all of those flowers and think, oh, well, this is totally normal. The perennials are coming in.
Right.
Meanwhile, Lavinia goes full teenage psycho witch and starts carving symbols from the Necronomicon into her body, which leads to a quick fact. The Necronomicon itself was a fictional creation from HP Lovecraft. Which, there it is. There it is. Is there actually, did he write it or did someone else write it?
I think this is it's called the Necronomicon, but it's just a collection of stories of his. I don't know if Necronomicon is just in universe something that exists or if he actually wrote a Necronomicon.
I mean, I've seen it, it's plays a central role in all of the Evil Dead movies and stuff.
Yeah.
Which obviously they took directly from HP Lovecraft. Mom wakes up and heads downstairs to see Benny and Jack heading to the barn where the alpacas have turned inside out into some sort of morphed hell beast where they're all like one creature. We don't really get a good look at it there, but like I said, there are 4 alpacas in every scene that you see them in, but in this, there's suddenly 6 heads on the thing. So
Yeah.
I don't know if it just formed some more, or maybe there were 2 alpacas that were just always hanging out in the barn,
maybe.
or whatever. A light starts emitting from the alpacas. Benny and Jack run like hell, but Mom catches up just in time to grab Jack, where the 2 of them are struck by the light, which completely envelops them. Teresa and Jack are morphed into one pure, absolute nightmare fuel creature. I found this whole thing was just the most unsettling part of the whole thing. This is very Lovecraft, and The Thing really borrowed heavily from Lovecraft for the creature that was the main alien in The Thing, and then of course the prequel to The Thing, and this shit is. It was tough to watch. I was watching it with my brother and my wife, who is historically hates horror movies and stuff. She got kind of into the story at the beginning, and then she left to take a shower, and then came back right at this scene and was pissed.
It's good body horror. It's really good.
And the sound it's making the whole time.
The 2 of them are melded into some sort of crazy chimera where Jack is sticking out of Teresa's back, and the 2 of them are moaning this horrible sound. It's all sorts of disturbing.
Yeah.
Nathan tells Benny to call 911 because if there's one thing paramedics are trained to deal with, it's whatever the fuck this is. Oh my God. He, of course, can't get anyone on the phone, as you'd expect, but Lavinia comes into the room to save the day because she's covered in cryptic symbols from head to toe, so everything should just be fine from this point. Which leads me back to, every time that she does one of these creepy things,
It gets worse.
something horrible happens every time. Yeah. This one is like, it can't get much worse than Mom and Jack being morphed into one creature that's just screaming. Ugh. She spots Mom Jack on the couch, glowing magenta, twitching like mad, and is shocked that her spell didn't work. The next morning, Nathan tries to start the car and has possibly the cagiest freak out that we've seen in years. He punches the roof of the car while calling it a cocksucker and screams repeatedly. Also, at one point, I think he stops and looks at the camera to see if they're still rolling, because he's like,
I didn't notice that.
And then he looks at that and goes back to it.
You cocksucker! You cocksucker!
Apparently,
It's kind of hard to hear cut when you're screaming inside of the car punching the ceiling.
Should I punch it like 38 times? Or? Nicolas Cage apparently took the inspiration for this scene from Jack Nicholson's performance in 5 Easy Pieces. I don't know if you've ever seen that.
You stupid fuck-cocks! You assholes!
He kind of stole that and made it his own. He made it Nic Cage in only the way that he can. He gets out of the car and surveys his insane-looking property, which is now covered in magenta flowers and a pink haze of some sort, or purple haze. It's like something out of a Dr. Seuss book suddenly. Back inside, the Mom-Jack hybrid is moaning in agony while the kids hang out chit-chatting about whatever the hell is going on and pulling Mom's falling out hair off of her head. The kids think Mom is trying to say something, but it all comes out as some fun little moan scream that now lives deep within the nightmare center of my brain forever.
What was that, Mom?
No, this is useless.
It's just, yeah. Nathan pops in to tell the kids that the car is not happening. And gets really upset at the horror moans coming from Jack Mom. He's really like immediately just kind of like, well, let's just kill this thing. Jesus Christ, it's annoying.
Yeah, it's weird.
Mom starts screaming like crazy when sunlight hits her, so they take the freak creature up to the attic so Mom can get some work done on the computer. Because she's probably losing clients left and right.
Hey, just because you morphed into this blob doesn't mean you still can't make a living, babe.
Yeah, I know. She could jump on and start giving some financial advice. Just
So, Mrs. Gardner, what do you think I should do today? Should I trade? Oh, okay.
all right.
Sorry, it's bad Wi-Fi.
Your Wi-Fi is really bad there, huh?
I think everybody in this Zoom generation can relate.
Yeah. She's just cutting in and out. It's fine. Suddenly, the alpacas start losing it in the barn, so Nathan takes action. He tells the kids to stay with Mother Jack and that everything is under control. Personally, I've seen too many examples of people saying everything is under control to believe that statement ever again. And this one tops it, man. This is, everything's under control. Your mom and your little brother are one creature that's screaming and moaning and twitching like crazy. And the alpacas are screaming because they're in, a 6-creature hybrid now. But everything is under control. Trust me. He seems to be under the impression that the alpacas are the cause of all of this. So he grabs a shotgun, heads to the barn, and confronts the now 6-headed blob of alpaca and starts blasting in true Nicolas Cage fashion. He screams with every shot and blood sprays everywhere, including in his face and his mouth. At one point, blood from this freak animal is literally pouring out of Nic Cage's mouth, which can't be hygienic, even if it was from like a regular normal alpaca, let alone some alien alpaca.
Well, you drink that shit water, you can drink anything.
This was the part where we actually see the alpaca.
Yeah, we see it all together.
It does look like just like the dog thing from the thing with the 6 heads and it had tentacles, or was that just the necks of the alpaca and stuff?
Necks or legs,
but it's the same type of like skinless horror with the gaping eyes and mouth and stuff.
Yeah. I kind of wondered if they were turned inside out, or if this is just all their hair was burned off from the radiation, or
I think that might be it, because you notice it starts to happen to Mom Jack too. Like they get like boils all over their skin and their hair falls off.
Yeah,
they called it the Jerisa. In the behind the scenes.
That's awesome. The Jerisa.
Nathan breaks down in the barn, which is a really poignant, emotional beat in the movie, which is immediately juxtaposed by a shot of Mom drinking water out of a bowl like a dog.
That was such a hard cut for me. I had to stop the movie because I was laughing so fucking hard. I was like, way to take like a really good moment where you start to feel bad for this character because his world is collapsing around him, and like it all just suddenly hits him, and then instantly cut to Mom Jack just all over it, lapping fucking water out of a bowl. Looking up at her daughter with the most pathetic look. Yeah. Oh my god, it fucking killed me.
Yeah, possibly the most emotional moment in the movie, immediately juxtaposed by the most ridiculous and,
Unintentional comedic moment.
Dad is the picture of everything is under control when he shows back up in the attic, coated in blood, with a shotgun in his hands. He tells the kids to go downstairs and says he's going to handle it. The kids, of course, are, putting two and two together of what he means by handle it. The kids say goodbye to Mom Jack, and Nathan puts the barrel of the gun to Teresa's head. But instead of pulling the trigger, he leans down and gives her a big old sloppy slime-filled kiss, which is grosser than just about anything else in the whole movie. Like the spittle coming off the slime, like on his lips. Ugh.
It's like when you pull apart a Rice Krispies treat,
Thanks for ruining Rice Krispie treats, Nigel.
Stringy, goopy. Maybe they just coated her with marshmallow and stuff, and that's how they filmed it.
He then explains that he's going to go out and find some help, which should be super easy. And then they're going to go on a trip. So everything's fine. Yeah. Everything is fine.
I hear Portugal's nice.
Nothing to worry about. Back in the non-freak world, Ward is reporting to the powers that be about the water sample he took from the gardener's farm, which, like I said, in a deleted scene, there's more to this where the mayor meets with Ward and kind of tells him to just kind of make it go away and not really say anything about it, and then starts kind of threatening him. So she is just kind of like, well, this is good for me because now the gardeners will be forced to get rid of this place. Of course, Ward doesn't know anything about what's happened with these freaky events since. He just knows that it was contaminated water, and then he had that weird electronic bug out with all of his stuff. He gets stopped by the sheriff and a hunter who show him a hybrid of a load of animals that fuse together the same way that Jack Mom did. There's a couple of, this is a direct quote, there's a couple of birds in there, a whitetail, rabbit, a fucking cat, etc. He also spots what I'm assuming is Sam's collar.
No, it's G-Spots.
Is it G-Spots?
Okay.
Okay.
G-Spots.
Okay. Gotcha. That makes sense.
Paying off the foreshadowing of Chong saying, "Yeah, you won't recognize her, but you might find her, but you won't recognize her."
So G-Spot was running through the woods as its own creature with glowing eyes and hairless and all that kind of stuff, but then somehow morphed into other animals.
Into it. Yeah, maybe they were attracted to each other and grouped up and then got morphed and mutated.
The sheriff says that they were running from something, that they looked like they were running from something, so I guess they all just came together and then the light hit them and they all morphed together. At the gardeners, they're all settling down for the night. Nathan is watching Static on the boob tube. Lavinia and Benny are prepping the horse to head out of this fever dream. And I'm sure Mom and Jack are enjoying some hot cocoa up in the attic. Lapping it out of a bowl. Benny heads into the barn to get the saddle, but the horse's eyes start glowing and it just runs the F off, leaving the kids to either stay in this hellish nightmare world or walk down the road for a bit. Which, they say it's like 12 miles, but there's a road.
Yeah, in dark. But you just walk out.
Just stay on the road. You got flashlights, you're fine.
My guess is maybe they were scared of monsters being out in the,
maybe
out in
the
woods
monsters
to
in their
attack them.
attic.
I know.
Get the fuck
That
off
was the only explanation I could come up with too, because I was like, it's not like they don't know the way out of their place.
Yeah.
Like they just walk down the road. 12 miles sucks, but it's only going to take a
better
few
than being
hours
in this freaky nightmare.
But it was the middle of the night, so maybe they were worried that weird mutated shit's going to attack them.
Maybe. So, of course, they decide to just ride it out with Freak Mom Brother, losing his ever-loving mind Dad, dead six-headed alpaca, and a mysterious light that randomly turns creatures into hell beasts. Yeah, I'm glad that you picked up on the light and the mutations happening more at night than during the day, because I didn't really put that together.
I didn't either, but that's the story has that too. They're talking about things. It gets way creepier at night.
Yeah.
So again, maybe that's why they didn't want to wander off at night trying to walk out of their house.
Yeah. Suddenly, Benny hears Sam the dog off screen and runs to find him. He hears the dog calling from the obviously completely empty well and decides to climb in after him. All of a sudden, the light that fused Mom and Jack appears and sucks Benny into the well, and he is also never to be seen again. But he did look really cool in those goggles.
Hell yeah, he did. Thank God he had those.
Goggles he showed at the very beginning for some reason.
I'm not really sure what the point of those goggles were. Maybe so he could actually see what the light was for a second.
Yeah, I belatedly remembered he in the first scene he's in, he puts them on when he's talking to Lavinia about getting high with the guy, and I can't remember why. I don't remember what the significance of that scene was. But
I'm assuming that they were like on the property from when Nathan's dad owned the property.
I think he mentions it's their grandpa's or something, and they're goggles.
Yeah, they're like welder goggles.
Oh, welder goggles.
I thought they were welder goggles. So, in theory, you can look through them at bright lights without harming your eyesight. Yeah. But the well scene is a nice throwback to the short story as well, because I think in the story it was the youngest son gets sucked into the well.
Yeah,
and
he just disappears. Yeah. I think because it all happens after the fact, you get it related to you.
Yeah.
It's a frame there, but I think he mentions his son just kept going out to the well and then one day just didn't come back, and now he's like in the well is what he kind of rambles. The father rambles about
he's in the well. He's in the well.
And the well is sort of kind of like how this movie did it, but the well was the origin for a lot of the stuff happening in the short story, probably because it's from the water, but there's like a presence emanating out of the well as well. Which this has as well in the movie. Yeah.
I mean, that's the first place that Jack starts communicating with the creature. And then he makes that little drawing of what he thinks the creature is.
Yep. And then the thing like attacks Benny and pulls him down.
Yeah, pulls him down.
Lavinia is pulled back from the well by Peter Lowe again. He's like freaking out and in full, like whatever that accent is, that New England accent thing that he does, which I've seen a lot of Nicolas Cage movies, and the only times I've ever heard him do that accent are Vampire's Kiss and Color Out of Space. So it's funny that we did these back to back this.
It's perfect.
30 years apart.
Yeah. He takes her into the house, but he keeps kind of like popping back into reality. He comes back to reality for a second before he just decides to feed his daughter to the now spider-like creature that Mom Jack has become. I don't know if you noticed that he kind of like, we talked about it a little bit there where he just kind of like, he goes full on into another kind of personality and then goes back to normal. So he's like channeling his dad, and then he's kind of normal again, and then he's back to his dad. So the more like the more he goes crazy, the more he channels that version of himself that is his drunk dad.
Which was also foreshadowed, I think, at the very beginning when he does the dad voice. There's a lot of foreshadowing in this movie that I noticed.
Yeah.
But when he does his dad voice for the first time is when he's talking to his wife before all this happens. And he's like, I can't believe we live on this farm. Like, what am I becoming, my dad? And then he quotes his dad, "You'll never be a painter, Nathan," or whatever in the Peter Lowe voice. So it's foreshadowing that he sort of, as he becomes an insane murderous monster, that's his dad, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, that's the question I had is like, is he actually like becoming his dad, or is this just his subconscious of what his dad was like? And
I
don't know.
What it sounds like.
Ward and the sheriff race to the scene while Nathan drinks some more bourbon and talks to his family, who he is imagining are sitting on the couch next to him. He's gone completely off the rails at this point. He plans out the trip he and his wife are going to take to Italy and Greece as his daughter screams for her life in the attic while Mom Jack, who can finally talk, starts screaming her name and saying that it's hungry and stuff. So now it's been able to put together some speech, which is the only other thing that really talks in this. The only other creature that really talks. Ward and the sheriff show up to see a bloody and acting more like a lunatic than usual Nathan scratching his arms and babbling about how they've been having a really hard time with the cell phone and the phone and the Wi-Fi in the car. Life in the sticks. That was my favorite line of the whole movie.
Yeah, that's good.
Upstairs, Mom Jack is on the verge of eating Lavinia while Nathan is showing Ward his ghost family on the couch and explaining that Benny lives in the well now. He hears Lavinia scream upstairs and Nathan asks if Ward wants a drink because he's having one. The hell happened to your screen went red?
Yeah, whoa.
Did it?
Yeah, like the filter or the light changed lighting.
Oh, God.
Oh,
The
God.
aliens are coming for me.
It's turned magenta.
It's magenta.
Ward and the cop break down the door to the attic, revealing the monster Teresa and Jack have morphed to become, trying to eat Lavinia. Nathan shows up in the nick of time and blows Mom's head off with a shotgun, then shoots glowing head Jack as well. He then has a good chuckle and says, "They're not my family," and then takes off to go have that drink, I guess. I love that. Drink? I'm having one. Another amazing line. The light starts coming out of the well, and Nathan, dazzled by it, says, "The color," and aims his gun at Ward, prompting the cop to shoot Nathan, which causes the light to retreat to the well. Which I wasn't really sure what those two things had to do with each other. I guess maybe because Nathan is kind of like part of the consciousness now of that creature. Nathan looks at his bloody hand and says it's beautiful, like flowers, and dies. We are now 5 for 5 on Nicolas Cage deaths.
Yeah.
Technically 6 because he kind of dies a second time in this movie.
Yeah.
Lavinia refuses to join Ward and the sheriff as they head over to Ezra's cabin after they hear like a really loud boom or something off in the woods. Ezra is cranking a mixtape of him monologuing about the meteorite, which is so damn good that it must have burned his eyes out of his head. Basically just mummified when they find him. Which they had just been talking to him like a day earlier or 2 days earlier, something like that. A real quick couple of quick fact here. When Ward Phillips and Sheriff Pierce go to Ezra's house, the tape of Ezra's speech talking about the color he recorded before he died is a partially faithful version of Nahum's last words to Amy Pierce. Is it Amy Pierce?
I think it's Ami. It's a man, but again, it's one of those weird ass names that doesn't seem like a name.
To Ami Pierce in the original short story, so it's almost exactly the same words as what he said
And
in the
I
book.
think by the time it ends, I reread it again last night. By the time he stops saying the monologue, he doesn't have a face anymore. It mentions like he stopped talking because the face which was saying those words was no longer a face. Is basically what it says, which I think is why Ezra's face was all gone during that scene. I think it was an homage to that. But yeah, as Nahum is saying that, he essentially just his face melts off and then he just crumbles into dust by the end of it.
Which is sort of what Ezra has happened to him.
They used Ezra as that insert to that scene. Basically.
Ezra starts turning into light from the inside out, so the sheriff and Ward decide to take off. They also see a bunch of stuff happening on the security cameras, which somehow are miraculously working, even though everything else is not working. The tape deck kind of makes sense. It's like garbled and warbling going in and out, but like that's older technology. Newer technology seems to be more affected by this crazy thing. But I think in the behind the scenes, they said that they wanted to show that even older technology was affected by what was happening.
Okay.
So the sheriff is sucked up into a tree that is turned into one of the Ents from The Lord of the Rings and is unceremoniously crushed to death. He's just kind of there and then dead.
Yeah. I thought that was a nice like Evil Dead reference. The evil tree.
Yeah.
But also it's a reference to the story. The trees move at night. They don't do anything. That's one of the creepy things that happens. They look outside and they swear the trees are like moving back and forth when it's dark out, but they can't.
Oh, man.
They can't get a good glimpse of it.
That's creepy as hell too.
Right. So I thought it was a cool way that they managed to throw that into the movie just a little bit too.
Yeah. It's a lot of good creep factor in this movie. Back at that damned MacGuffin well, it is glowing magenta, and Lavinia is staring down into the light. Ward tries to get her attention, but she is also now glowing from the inside out. She looks him in the eyes, and suddenly he sees what we can assume is the alien from the meteorite's homeworld. We see some crazy dune worm planet that is all sorts of Tool-esque, music video, and Ward is thrown to the ground and then attacked by the grass. So it's like everything on that property that touches the water is becoming one like singular entity of some sort. Mm-hmm. He sees Lavinia summon the light into a sort of wormhole into the sky and then runs to the house while slowly pixelating apart, which I thought was a really, really cool effect. It's like him kind of like being almost like pulled into this wormhole the whole time.
That was a really cool visual.
Yeah. Inside we see Nathan back from the dead, watching TV and glowing from the inside out like all the other characters. Then we see the whole family show up on the couch, speaking gibberish in unison. I don't know if you caught it. I actually watched it with the subtitles, but what Nathan says to Ward is the same thing that Lavinia said to Ward, like, you looking at my legs.
Yep.
Oh, it's cool or whatever.
I think it's, I don't know if it's, it was really cool. I really liked this whole sequence. I don't know if it's trying to show the weird time dilation again, like things that happened in the past are sort of re-happening, but with different people. And that's why Nathan was like, my family's right here. Like they're all still there. He can see them because he's partially in the past. Or if it's now because Ward was touched by the thing, like now he's going crazy like all the other characters have been going, and we finally get to see what that looks like from an audience perspective. That's kind of how it was one of the two ways. I thought it was really cool either way.
I kind of got the sense that they had all morphed into one creature. So like Lavinia was speaking through Nathan and vice versa. Like, you know, they all are there.
Yeah, but there's also like really cool visuals, like as Ward's moving, I can't even know how to describe this because they did a really good job showing it, but like he phases to different, like he's showing different parts of time happening. Like he'll move his arm and his arm will move, and then the rest of him will teleport up to it. It was like that kind of weird time bleeding effect, like you're seeing the past and the future at the same time or in reverse. I thought it was a really cool way of showing like what happens under the influence of this thing. Yeah,
piggybacking on that, apparently if you pause the house in those shots, it's actually, you can see it in daytime and then nighttime and then in the magenta, and like it kind of like phases back and forth through time as well. So that's awesome. Really cool. I forgot to mention that Lavinia disintegrates into this wormhole and is sucked up into it too. Out of nowhere, Nathan charges Ward like a haunted house actor while seemingly being pulled apart by the light as well, kind of phasing in and out, which I thought was cool. I actually saw how they shot it. He was actually doing it in reverse. They filmed it in reverse, so he's like walking backwards in the actual shot, but then when they put it in the movie, he's walking forward, so it'd just be even more creepy. Ward kicks Nathan in the face and jumps into the wine cellar. Suddenly, all of the wine explodes, and so does Nathan's head. Everything goes white, and what's left is a burnt-out crater filled with ash. So I guess that's assuming that, you know, the creature has left. Like, it's no longer here.
Yeah.
It's taken everything that it absorbed and left.
Including the color of everything. It drains everything, including the color, which is why everything looked gray. And it was really cool. I'm really glad that they did that. They had a way to do that in the movie.
Yeah. Ward emerges from the cellar like Danny Glover at the end of Predator 2. The only survivor of whatever the hell happened. Everybody else is dead.
I'm too old for this shit.
Which is, you know, begs the question of like, why didn't Ward get affected by this thing? Why didn't he get sucked up into it? How is he the only one who lived? I guess to tell the tale.
Right. He was in the cellar, man.
Yeah, he's surrounded by
him.
They had a scene earlier when Nic Cage goes down into the wine cellar. They kind of show the walls a little bit, and I don't know if they were alluding to the fact that maybe the walls were lead lined or something that was going to cause Ward to survive later on, but they never really explained that. We see a time jump with Ward standing on top of a dam, which evidently covered the land that the gardeners owned. We are left with one last ominous glimpse of a magenta mantis flying over the dam, and the title of the film slowly being ripped apart by the light and color from the well. The end. So we kind of get the idea that this isn't over. Like,
Yeah.
there's more to this creature. Like, it's going to affect the entire eastern seaboard, which get their water supply from this reservoir now.
They took a line right out of the story too, because the narrator or Ward is like, "I'm not going to drink that water." Basically,
Yeah.
like, whatever. I couldn't stop it. They built the damn reservoir, but I'm never drinking the water here.
Yeah.
Yeah.